Hello, I'm Warren Fay. I'm a folklorist and performer. Alcohol fueled much of the early days of Australia. They used to say that you could size up a town and work out the number of people that lived in that town by the number of pubs and shanties that were there. At one stage in Ballarat, one of the big gold mining settlements in the 1860s in Victoria, there were over 500 establishments to buy alcohol. A shanty was usually a pretty rough sort of hut where they illegally, most of the times, sold grog. The grog itself was mainly rum, and there was some rather unscrupulous additions to the rum, which mainly came from Jamaica, but the additions mainly came from the slops bucket or even chewing tobacco, which gave it more flavour, but not necessarily more potency, I wouldn't imagine. The other big drink was Dutch gin. Of course, beer wasn't invented until the late 1860s. Sorry, not beer, but freezing units weren't invented. And by the way, freezing units, refrigeration, was first invented in Australia. It was actually a brewery commissioned somebody to try and work out how to chill the pipes, and made here in Australia. The hotels were actually more establishments where people stayed overnight and they provided meals, and there are many grand Australian pubs still out there in the bush. They used to say that the Englishman likes his half and half, the Irishman likes his tot. The Aussie has no national drink, so he drinks the bloody lot. One of the shenanigans they used to get up to in the old days was to lamb people down. They used to call lambing down. And what happened is that most of the workers were itinerant workers working in the shearing industry or the droving industry. And if they, for example, went to a station, that's an Australian farm, and worked there for a season, shearing sheep or being a rousey or whatever, they'd be paid at the end of the season. There was no alcohol allowed on these stations. It was part of the conditions of work. But at the end of the season, the men would turn their backs and head for town. Sometimes they had an eye on coming down to the big smoke in Sydney or Melbourne or Adelaide or whatever. In many cases, they only got as far as the nearest shanty hotel. They would give the cheque to the landlady or landlord and say, let me know when I've cut it out. Let me know when I've spent half of it. And maybe 3 days later, they were in a terrible drunken stupor. They used to throw them, the landlord would throw these wrecks of people into what they called the dead house, which was a room at the back of the pub to sober up. And then they'd inevitably get back on their horse. If their horse hadn't jumped the bar as well, because sometimes that happened, the landlord ended up owning the horse, the bridle, the saddle and the lot. Pretty tragic. So here's a song about a couple of blokes that were on the road to Gundagai, headed to Sydney, and they ended up staying in a pub that they met. We started out from Roto when the sheds they all cut out, and with whips and whips of rhino, yes, we meant to push about, and we packed our swags carefully, we made for Sydney town, with a 3-spot check between us that was wanting knocking down. And we crossed the Murrumbidgee near old Yanko in the week, and we passed through old Miranda and crossed the Burnett Creek. But we never stopped at Wagga Wagga, we'd Sydney in our eyes, and we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai. Oh, we threw our bloomin' swags off and we waltzed into the bar, where we ordered a rum and a raspberry and a shilling each cigar, and the girls that served the poison winked at Bill and I, so we camped kissed a lot of girls, me boys, and drunk a lot of beer. And I've met with some of both me lads that left me feeling queer. But for beer to knock you sideways, girls to make you sigh, you should camp at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai. In a week the spree was over and the checks all knocked out, so we shouldered our Matildas and we made our tracks for town. And the girls, they served us a nobler and sadly said goodbye. And we tramped from Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai. Oh, the road to Gundagai, 5 miles from Brunabri. Yes, we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.